Hi, this is Mr. G. Welcome back to another installment of Music Theory Lessons. This will be the fifth lesson in the series. Up till now, we've discussed the circle of fifths. We've discussed how to draw the circle of fifths and how to start using it to figure out the names of the notes of the major scale. We've talked about how the major scale is the linchpin of all Western music. And this lesson is going to build on that. By now, you should be able to write out the names of the notes of your 12 major scales that you find around the circle of fifths that we drew. We're going to take the next step, and we're going to discuss something called the chordal scale. Now, before we get to that, just let me give you a little bit of Mr. G's perspective on music appreciation. Up until the 20th century, all written music was perceived pretty much and written from the basis of melody. Melody was first. Melody was foremost. And yes, they have all these lush orchestrations, but composers didn't think necessarily in terms of vertical chords. They thought in terms of melodies and counter melodies. And the violins would do this, and then the woodwinds would answer with this. And yes, notes would intersect at certain points in a score, and when they come together and sound together, you get what are called chords. But composers didn't write necessarily from the perspective of chords. They wrote notes and melodies, and they had this intricate set of not hard and fast rules, but rules that they used to develop melodies. And as melodies intersected with each other, you would hear chords. Well, in the 20th century, chordal instruments started to become more prevalent, primarily the guitar. And more piano players started using the piano in the popular music, pop music as it's called, as a chordal-based instrument. Rather than playing single note classical style, they would pound out chords. You start hearing this in the early rock and roll with Jelly Roll Morton and people like that. And then people like Chuck Berry started introducing the guitar as a primary chordal instrument, bringing guitar to the forefront. And then you had the onset of folk music, and country music started becoming really, really huge. And guitar started playing a huge role in all these idioms. And for a single songwriter artist to accompany himself on the guitar, they would play chords and sing the melody. So out of all this started coming the thought process of writing music from the angle of thinking of the chords as the foundation for the melody. Now that's kind of backwards from the way it used to be. Chords were something that happened when all these different melodies and counter melodies intersected with each other. Now people started writing music from the basis of chords first, and then a single melody note writing over top of it. So as a result of all this, we started noticing certain patterns of chords that seemed to make sense and seemed to apply themselves very well to writing songs. That's the direction we're going to be going with the chordal scale. But you need to know, music wasn't always this way. This is an aspect of modern music that we need to consider. So we're going to consider this thing called the chordal scale. So with no further ado, let's jump into this boat and start paddling. Let's see what we got. All right, see you later. The chordal scale gets its name from the fact that the major scale has 7 notes in it. Each one of those notes is also the name of a chord. So in the C major scale, your notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C again. Each one of those letter names is also the name of a chord in that key. A C something chord, a D something chord, an E something chord, F, G, A, B, all chords of some kind. Well, what kind of chords are they? Well, there's only 2 basic families of chords out there: major chords and minor chords. These 7 chords in the key, the chordal scale if you will, are going to be major chords or minor chords. The first, the fourth, and the fifth chords are major chords. So in the key of C, note number 1 is B, C. Note number 4 is F. Note number 5 is G. If you don't believe me, look at the major scale which you wrote out. 1 is C, 4 is F, 5 is G. That means 2, 3, 6, and 7 are minor. Almost true. 7, yes, it's part of the minor chord family, but it is a diminished chord. But if you were to say 1, 4, and 5 is major and everybody else is minor, I would not fight with you on that. Just know that the 7 chord, which you don't use much, it's a dark sounding chord, but the 7 chord is a part of the minor chord family, but it is truly a diminished chord. So 1, 4, 5 is major, everybody else is minor, 7 is diminished. Fair enough? 1, 4, 5 is major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and 7 is diminished. Now, take your major scales, which you've already written out, the letter notes for from your last lesson, and I want you to put a large M, uppercase M, next to the major chords in every key. I want you to put a lowercase m next to the minor chords of every key, and then I want you to put a little circle, a lowercase o if you will, next to the 7th chord for diminished. So every key should have a uppercase M next to 1, 4, and 5, and every key should have a lowercase m next to 2, 3, and 6, and a lowercase o or 0 next to the 7th note. Go ahead and do that, and I'll come back to you in a second. All right, now what we have just done is we've defined all 7 chords in every key. So if you're in the key of B flat, eventually you'll be able just to spit out the names of all the chords in the key of B flat, but you should at least be able to figure them out now. If you know the notes of the B flat major scale, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, and B flat, then you should know that the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th are going to be major chords. So in the key B flat, we have B flat major, E flat major, and F major. The minor chords in the key B flat will be C minor, D minor, and G minor. The diminished chord will be A diminished. You should be able to name out all the chords to every key. Now, let's bring the circle of fifths back into play here. Circle of fifths can also help us in all this. Let's say we're in the key of C. Find the letter C in your circle of fifths. What is the letter to the left of C, or go backwards on the clock, 1 letter? It's an F. What's the letter to the right of C, or forward 1 letter on the clock face? It's a G. C, F, and G. You should recognize the fact that those are the 3 major chords in any key, in that key. So the key of C, the major chords are C, F, and G. If you're in the key of C and you see a letter name other than C, F, or G, it's a minor chord. And if it's a B, it'll be a diminished. Let's take a look at the key of A flat. Find the letter A flat on your circle of fifths. What is the letter backwards 1 notch on the clock face? D flat. What's the letter ahead of A flat? E flat. What are the 3 major chords in the key of A flat? A flat, D flat, E flat. 1, 4, 5. It's not rocket science. So you should be able to figure out very quickly what are the 3 major chords in any key by looking at the circle of fifths. Now, why is this important? Well, in pop music, you quickly find out that the 3 major chords, the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th chords, are the chords most commonly used to develop a pop tune. If you listen to some of your favorite pop artists, the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th, or it's called the 1, 4, and 5 chords, figure very predominantly in almost every one of their songs. Yeah, their other minor chords show up, but the basic building blocks of every pop tune is 1, 4, and 5. Now, next lesson, we are going to discuss how chord changes work and how they relate to each other. We're going to talk about pop tunes. We're going to talk about how chords change and shift between each other. And we're going to take these 7 chords and start setting ourselves up to be able to write songs with them. I'll talk to you later. Be good.